I have a crazy story to tell everybody. About a year and a half ago, the staff and extra lay leaders at Riversgate were working on a vision statement that we shared earlier this year that captures our heart for where we feel the Lord is leading our congregation. And out of that vision statement, we came out with some goals. We discovered some things that we wanted to do that we weren't quite able to do in our current building, which we love, and it's been an amazing building, but we began to feel some limitations with it, especially in the area of accessibility for people with mobility issues, youth and children, and just different things came up. And so I began to look out of that sort of vision statement and out of the needs that we felt we had as a church. I began to wonder and think about what was out there. And I knew there was a church up the street, the Hillsdale Community Church, where we're sitting right now. And I began to wonder what was going on. I knew that congregation was getting smaller, that maybe they were getting to close to the end of their lifespan. And so I made an appointment to visit with Pastor J.J. Crow and asked what was going on, and kind of brazenly wondered if their building would ever be available or be made up for sale, or if there was any possibility there. And at that point, it was April of 2023, and it was definitely not available. But they came back to us several months later in the fall and asked, hey, is there any interest that you still have in Riversgate being at this building, this property? And so we began to talk. We began to wonder what that might look like. So we decided to do Christmas Eve here. We really value worshiping together in one space as a church. We don't want to go to two services. And even when we've done two services on Christmas or Easter in the past, we don't like the feel of that. We want to be together. We are a family church. And so we always need a bigger space to meet. So we learned some things at Christmas Eve and began to see like maybe this is possible, but maybe there's some challenges we hadn't thought about. All the while, they were beginning to consider as to whether or not they would give the building to us, which was news that I found out in December, that they were getting ready to vote on that. They voted to move forward in a relationship with Riversgate, not necessarily knowing what that would look like. And so there was still a lot more conversations to be had, to grow in a relationship with each other, that they would get to know who we are as a community, that we would get to know who they are. And so we decided to do Easter service here as well. And they, in fact, joined us for Easter service. Maybe the first Foursquare United Church of Christ joint service that has ever happened anywhere at any time. And it was a beautiful morning to be able to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus together. And then we began to talk more after that. And they, as a community, as a church, have decided that they intend to give Riversgate Church this building, which brings up all kinds of issues. So we're going to spend the next couple minutes talking about that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the needs that this building possibly meets for Riversgate Church. The first one is this: accessibility. We have several elderly people in our church that have some mobility issues. We don't have handicap parking. We've done a good job of trying to make sure we reserve parking out front. We also have a 3-story building, lots of stairs. So there's all kinds of issues for anybody who has mobility issues. It is hard to access our church. Apart from that, it's hard to know where to park, where to go, any of that. So accessibility for everybody is a big thing that we believe that this church building would meet for us. The second thing is we have a growing, thriving youth group that every Sunday has to tear down the chairs and put up the chairs. They don't have their own space in our current building. There's no space for them in our current building. So we share lots of space in lots of different ways. One of the things about being at a church building like this is we could have some semi-dedicated youth space. Of course, there would still be some sharing, but they would have more of a space to call their own. And if you have seen the fellowship hall downstairs, which would become a youth space for them, imagine the dodgeball games you could have. It would be wonderful. Last year, we polled Riversgate to see about the possibility of going to 2 services. It was unanimous. Nobody wants to go to 2 services, including the staff, including our volunteers, including everybody. We love the intimacy we have that we get to worship together. And so we need a bigger room because more folks are coming to Riversgate, and we want to make space for those folks. So this room, this sanctuary, is a bigger place that we could continue to worship together. We mentioned parking already, to have a upper parking lot, lower parking lot. We were able to fit almost all the cars in on Easter. So having our own parking space area would be an incredible blessing at Riversgate for visitors and for people who call Riversgate home alike. Also, we continue to find ways to serve our community, whether it's through preparing meals for home PDX. In the current shower ministry, on Tuesdays, we have 30 to 40 people come in for showers. And we're trying to figure out how to meet those needs and how to possibly expand. And also, it's highly disruptive to our children's ministry that we are having homeless ministry outreach in the same place that our children are coming to learn and grow. We would love to have the possibility of having separate spaces for those both vital ministries.
Well, I am so excited about this space and the opportunity that we have to expand and grow our kids' ministry. This room has so many possibilities to be able to love and serve our little ones well. We've got a fellowship hall where all of our kids are going to be able to run and play in a safe space, as well as be able to hear each other. One of the challenges that we currently face in our building are the concrete floors with the large open space make it really hard to hear our friends when they're right next to us trying to talk to us and share really, really important information about how their week went, or for the teachers to be able to communicate the story to them clearly. At this space, I am looking forward to being able to allow our kids to run and play outside. Right now, we've got a parking lot, and so we don't have a place where our kids can safely run and play in some grass or on a basketball court. So there are just so many ways that we are looking forward to growing and expanding at this facility.
As we just talked about, this building meets a lot of needs that we have. If we were to receive a building like this, it would also create a lot of challenges, obviously. I want to touch on some of those. As I've talked to different people in the church, one of the challenges that keeps coming up is really the aesthetic of the building. Something people love about our current building is that it doesn't feel churchy. As you can tell and feel and see as you've been here, this feels like a church. It was designed to be a church. And so with that, there's some baggage for people. And there might be some baggage for visitors. As we think about what a space evokes in people, some people want to leave sort of the religious or churchy experience behind, and we love what feels more of like a living room at Riversgate. This feels like a sanctuary, which has pros and cons. One of the things we would want to do is to probably remove the pews and put chairs in to make the room more flexible overall, so we would be able to play with what the room itself would feel like. So aesthetic is one of the big challenges. Another big challenge is, you've heard the saying, more money, more problems. Same thing, more building, more property, more problems. To receive a building like this comes with all kinds of responsibilities that we don't currently have. We would need a custodian, probably full-time, to take care of the property and the building. There would be ongoing projects in every corner of this church to make it feel like home. And there are big ticket issues like the furnace, which looks like an ancient steam locomotive engine in the basement that heats this whole building. There's only 2 people in Portland who know how to work on it. So there's probably an expiration date on how long we can keep running on something like that. The roof is new, praise God, but who knows what else we're going to uncover as we do an inspection of the building. One last challenge that I want to bring up is, even though we would be less than half a mile away from our current location, the streets that surround Hillsdale Community Church provide a different set of challenges and issues than we face being closer to the village. It's something we would want to be aware of and also see as a really beautiful ministry possibility as we look to get to know and love neighbors in this area. So we've talked about some of the needs that this building would meet. We've talked about some of the challenges we would face, though there's many more to be explored, I'm sure. But let's talk about what's next. The very next step that's currently in process is to get a building inspection done. So we have a full report on what we're looking at taking over if in fact the building is given to us and we decide to do that. After that, we are currently planning another service to be held here so everybody at Riversgate would come into that service knowing that there's a possibility that this building would be given to us. On that Sunday, we would also have the opportunity for everybody to walk through, to explore the building. On top of that, it's probably going to be on a Home PDX Sunday, where Tiffany has already begun using this building to prepare the meals. So we would be able to pack up the meals, head downtown. It'd be a really beautiful Sunday to explore what life could be like at this building. One of the other steps we will be taking is putting together a team of people who are willing to spend their time fully exploring what the financial implications of this opportunity would be. Hillsdale Community Church intends to give us this building. We currently have a $7,800 mortgage. We would be getting out from under that mortgage and retooling that money to invest in this building and in the future of Riversgate Church. That will need still a lot of research to figure out what the final financial scope of this project is, and we'll have a lot more information on that soon. After that, we will be having 2 different town hall meetings, one online, one in person. Look for those dates to be announced soon. And then in June, we will vote as a congregation. This is not something that the staff is going to decide. This is something that we are going to decide as a church if we would like to receive this building as a gift from Hillsdale Community Church. So we will be voting on that in June. And so finally, I want to give just a pastoral word. This journey began with prayer. It began with the prayers of the people at Hillsdale Community Church, who recognize that they are approaching the end of their life as a congregation. They desire to leave a legacy for this neighborhood. Their heart is that this building, as it has always been, would continue to be a church that would love and serve this neighborhood. It also began with prayer on our part as we saw the needs that we have that our current building doesn't meet. We began to ask God to provide those needs and began to explore. You can see in my prayer journal, after I met with the pastor, I asked the Lord, would you just give us that building and create a win for our church, their church, and for this neighborhood? This process began with prayer, and it's going to continue with prayer. All of us need to be praying and seeking the heart of the Lord, seeking His wisdom, having a discerning spirit, and in the midst of that, holding this possibility with holy indifference. We don't want this to be something that would divide our community. We want to be in one accord and together imagine the possibilities of what would happen if we did say yes to receiving such an incredible gift. And if not, where else might God be leading us, and how else might He be leading us to steward the resources we have? So it begins with prayer, it continues with prayer. Prayer is going to be the foundation of this entire process. So let's be committed to pray and seek the Lord together and what His heart is for Riversgate Church, for the legacy of Hillsdale Community Church, that we would continue to see the Lord work and bless this incredible neighborhood that we call home.